everyone doing?
We're good.
We're
Pretty good.
good. How are
Yeah,
you?
I'm great. I want to know what made you guys, well, what inspired you guys to want to tell Miep's story today?
Well, we've known about Miep for a long time, and we just found her uh, to be this incredible, unexplored character. You know, when you hear that when Otto Frank asked her if she would help hide his family, she said yes immediately and unhesitatingly. And she always sort of was very matter of fact about it. She said, well, of course, anyone would do it. And we know that not anyone would, because not everyone did. And so we wanted to, you know, look at who is this person who just sort of says yes and then continues to say yes. And while that can look like a hero, and Miep has been turned into sort of a hero, she always hated being called a hero. We wanted to explore what that actually looked like. You know, when she said yes, she didn't know what she was saying yes to. She was a young woman, newly married, sort of a party girl. And here she stepped into history. And we wanted to show it in all its fullness with its, you know, we wanted to show her doubts and her insecurities and her anger and the joy. You know, we wanted to really flesh out what saying yes looks like.
Okay. I mean, I know this is a story that the story of Anne Frank has obviously been told many of times in the past, but this is definitely a more new perspective to the Holocaust and everything that happened with Nazi Germany. So, how did you guys go about adding a fresh spin on a popular story?
Well, I shouldn't keep talking, but I will. So everything we know about Anne Frank, we know from her diary.
Mhm.
So everything we know about Miep, we know from Anne Frank's diary, but Miep had a whole other life outside the bookcase. And that's the story we researched and we wanted to tell, is how Miep hid the Franks while she was hiding other people. So the story of Anne Frank has been told, but there is this other completely compelling coming of age story happening right alongside it. And that's the story we decided we wanted to tell.
And in the storytelling and in the writing of the series, we were very clear that the story is told from Miep and Jan's perspective. So we never see things that they were not witness to. And so those things in the diary where Miep was present, you might see, but other things that are in the diary we don't see since she wasn't there.
Yeah.
And that was really important to us to kind of keep that perspective and that point of view throughout the show.
Definitely. Susanna, I know you've worked with like a lot of satire pieces in the past. I want to know, when you were directing, was that something that, I mean, I think a lot of people would be surprised to know that there is a bit of humor in the series. Is that something that you kind of wanted to bring to the screen as a director, you know, to kind of bring like a new perspective to a very serious situation, obviously?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Like, we first linked up when Joan and Tony were developing the pitch, and we all developed the sort of the way of pitching the story together, which always, as we told it, involved a lot of just realistic kind of Miep's quarter life crisis is still happening through the prism of this. So what are some of the, you know, period appropriate, but still real growing pains she's facing? You know, she's like newlywed. Sometimes her husband annoys her, even when also there's an occupation of their country. Obviously, that's the higher stakes situation, but lower stakes is like he left the milk out and now the milk's bad, and that's annoying too. So we even just juxtaposing the really granular everyday life experiences with the big historical stuff we all know feels like a fresh take, which it shouldn't be, but a lot of people don't point the camera there in the telling of these stories. They just kind of go for the big dramatic twists and turns, and those have been explored exhaustively. So there's kind of no new way in except to say, what's the most personal approach? Well, it's probably just to tell that story through this person. And also just in terms of the humor of it, you know, when I look around at the way that my friends and I talk about our global situation, whether it's, you know, the January 6th insurrection or Ukraine or any of these big issues, where we don't know the end of these things. We're talking about it like, what's going on here? Is this really bad? Is this really bad? Is it really bad yet? Should we be panicking yet? Well, maybe we'll panic if this happens. Uh-oh, that thing happened that we talked about. You know, it's like we're all kind of talking about it as we're going for walks or having drinks. You know, we're still engaging in our world. We're still looking at each other and saying, oh my God, can you believe this? And in ways that are casual. It's not always talking about it in this grand historical way where we know where it's going.
Right.
So that was just our approach. It's like, how are these people metabolizing like the present day of what's happening, not knowing where it's going?
Right.
Yeah, and I think that humor is the way that we as humans deal with incredibly high stakes and incredibly dangerous things. I think in COVID, we were laughing all the time because what else could you do?
We were laughing on January 6th.
Yeah, I mean, you're like, holy shit,
Oh my
this is
God, what is
crazy.
going on? Yeah.
Also, just to echo something Susanna was saying, I think the people up in the annex, the Franks and the others that Miep and Jan were hiding, also didn't know the end, till they were arrested. Were very hopeful, as is human nature, that they were going to come out of this. They survived 2 years. So there was this feeling that, hang on, we're going to make it. And there were moments of joy and humor up in the annex because that's how human beings cope.
Mhm.